Redditors have got to live out a sexual fantasy and had it go horribly wrong. What happened? Had a threesome with a couple. She cried because I made her orgasm and he couldn't. Things got really awkward and we never spoke again. Sorry, bro. Don't have a threesome with another guy if you can't make your girlfriend come. I wish it went better, but I was chased out of a house by the father and 3 brothers of the woman who was tied to the bed. We had wax, rope, ice and other stuff we thought would be cool, but that whole "they're going to be gone for 2 days" thing didn't work out. Joke's on them. They had to go back and untie their naked, wax-covered sister-daughter. There was a post a while ago in one of the sex subs that I remember well enough. The guy watched cuckold pee and wanted to try it. His wife wasn't sure and he ended up convincing her that they should. She broke down and said okay. They find a bowl and get down to it. Well, she starts enjoying it and the husband realizes right then that he's not into cuckold pee. He doesn't fantasize about being a cuck. He fantasizes about being the bull. But he pretty much has to endure it because he didn't want to just tell the guy to go home. He ended up having some major issues because he didn't think things would end up that way and couldn't shake the feeling that his wife cheated on him. A moral of the story: start with maybe a softer intro to a fetish rather than realizing you aren't into it when some dude is balls deep in your wife and you're stuck there watching. My good friend who is a huge 50 Shades fan mailed me some glass Benoit balls with instructions to insert them, wear them out dancing with my BF so they'd get me all turned on, and then surprise him with my newfound kinkiness when we went home. Thankfully I decided to test run those suckers beforehand because either I did something wrong or I have a coochie like a bear trap. They went in just fine. Felt pretty nice when I walked around, but I could not get them out. I tried everything, including, in a moment of desperation, a plastic spoon and a syringe full of lube. Nada. After several hours I become more and more panicked and called the nursing hotline at my school. The nurse on the phone assembled a team of other amused nurses who fired off suggestions like squat in the bathtub and poop and use suction from your vacuum hose. None of their suggestions work. And now I'm in an absolute frenzy. The Benoit balls had been in about 10 hours, and I was beginning to worry that I'd need to go to the ER. Finally, one nurse suggests the ultimate embarrassment. Does your boyfriend have long fingers? Can he come over and help? So yeah, I called my boyfriend to come fish sex toys out of my vagina at 2 AM. But this story gets better, because as he's driving over, one of the phone nurses suggests I sumo squat and hop down the stairs one at a time. Shockingly, this actually worked. The horrible little glass balls of embarrassment came plinking out onto my hardwood stairs, just as my boyfriend walks in, and witnesses me crouched in a birthing position, naked from the waist down, covered in lube, crying, and these glass balls rolling noisily down the stairs into my living room. Stick to what you know, y'all, and don't take sex advice from 50 Shades of Grey. Me crouched in a birthing position, naked from the waist down, covered in lube, crying, and these glass balls rolling noisily down the stairs into my living room. I don't feel bad laughing at this because I have been the boyfriend with long fingers before. My wife had a blowout during anal. Apparently, my wife read somewhere that to take a few laxatives beforehand to clean out. She did. All over me. She told me later that she felt so clean that when she farted it would whistle. Gondorcalsfarade. Gondorcalsfarade. My sides. Not mine, but my husband's, then boyfriend. Fantasy. All he ever did was bug me about tossing my salad, but I'm really weird about germs, so that always grossed me out. Well, I finally decided to go shower and clean up as well as I could and surprise him by coming out naked and bending over and all that good stuff. What I hadn't noticed and what he didn't even think about was the fact that while I was in the shower, he decided to eat a snack. Home canned peppers. Home canned spicy peppers. By the time I got over the awkwardness of him putting his face against my butt, I started to feel a weird tingle, then a burn. I ended up pushing him off, crying, and running to the shower to cool it off. 5 minutes in, I begged for him to bring me a glass of milk out of desperation, and the night ended with him laughing his butt off as he poured milk down my butt crack in the shower. That's kinda hilarious. I'm sorry, lol. Bathroom sex after a hot steamy shower. I almost fainted because I was overheating so much. I just sort of stopped and sat down on the floor, unable to get up and feeling really weak. We went back out and laughed about it. Today me and my GF had friends over and they were chill enough to have sex in the same room as us. I thought it would be a hot kinky type of thing, but I ended up getting super uncomfortable hearing them. Now I have the 10,000 yard stare and they're still here but clothed now. I've never understood how people can be in the same room as two people freaking, or really doing anything more than kissing. I mean at like drug houses and parties where people just kinda do whatever. That's just always sounded uncomfortable and mildly anxiety inducing for me. I slept with my boss after years of flirting and sexting. The night of, he got so drunk he spilled beer on the bed, broke some furniture stumbling around, and peed on me in his sleep. I didn't stay the night. He avoided me for months. I don't hook up with co-workers anymore. Looks like you missed out on a promotion. First year of uni I got a single dorm with an ensuite disabled bathroom. I lucked out hard. Not to mention, my future wife, who we're going to call Kat, also just so happened to pick the dorm opposite mine. Anyway, me and Kat had always flirted with the idea of using handcuffs to tie Kat to the menopause and handles in there. It was a BDSM goldmine, complete with a seat. About halfway through the year we decided to give it a go. It was amazing. I'll spare you the details, but it was every bit as good as you can imagine. The aftermath, however, was not. What I didn't mention was the additional space in the bathroom was also excellent for a little hair dye salon. So all over the floor and seat were those little sandy bleach bits you get in box dyes. After our vigorous exercise we needed something to chow down on. We were in the group kitchen when it hit us. Our legs both broke out in a horrible rash all over, an itch the likes of you can only imagine. We tried all the creams available to us but nothing soothed the pain. That was the last time we used that shower for that purpose. TLDR. Don't have sex in the same place you use box dyes to bleach hair without thorough washing first. A friend of mine dated a guy who was really into the idea of male chastity. Cool, you know, whatever. She wasn't particularly kinky, but try anything once, right? So he bought himself a little cage, tested it out for a couple of hours, and announced that he was good to go when she went away for a week. They were a long distance sort of deal, so the idea was for this to be a regular thing while they were apart. Full stop. She locks it closed, hides the key somewhere in his flat in case of a medical emergency. Safety first, after all, and goes back home. The thing about dong cages, for those who are unfamiliar, is that you wear them pretty much constantly. It sort of defeats the object when you don't. This includes while peeing. One thing that doesn't feature in a lot of chastity pee and erotica is hygiene, or how to clean yourself off while you're locked away in a tube that occasionally traps some pee in it. She came back after a week being away from him to find what she described as the worst case of nappy rash you could possibly imagine. Apparently he was of the opinion that it was normal, and that the discomfort was all part of the experience. I don't know if you're inclined to do a Google image search for nappy rash. You're liable to see a lot of babadicks if you do, but imagine that all up a grown man's penis. For fun. I just found out a friend of mine is into that chastity stuff and I wanted to ask him how he pees, but now I don't have to thanks to you, haha. And also, I go out of my way to not see baby dongs. I think I'll just take your word for it, lol. Wife brings her friend, girl, home after night out. Things get hot and steamy after a few more drinks. My dong decides he doesn't want to play. Never happened before or since. Both events. Don't worry, dearest Doug. Same thing happened to me. I think my penis is in love with my wife and has overcautious marriage preservation protocols. About 8 years ago I had a foursome with a buddy of mine. We had sex with 2 chicks. Bro fisted in the middle. Everything. Well, it turned out I was one and done pretty fast and he was a stallion. After I laid their limp noodle he had to finish off my girl as well. The few times he told the story he left that part out. Good all around guy. I had an initial visualization when you said bro fisted, and then I realized that you bumped fists with each other while fricking girls. I had sex with a guy I'd found online. I was blindfolded and handcuffed on his floor, with a butt plug in whilst he was fricking me doggy style. All of a sudden he stops and is like, we have a problem. I'm like, oh crap, what? And he pulls me up onto my knees and takes the cuffs off, only to tell me that the plug has gone all the way into my butt. Like the little bit at the top that's supposed to stop crap like this from happening had gone in whilst he was pounding away. So I end up in this random guy's apartment in his bathroom, trying to fish a freaking anal plug out of my butthole. It took me like 10 minutes but I got it out. Contrary to this thread, that story sounds like a success. I always liked the idea of a threesome, so when I finally got to try one I was kind of disappointed that I ended up as the third wheel, especially because my then boyfriend and the girl we picked ended up paying a lot more attention to each other and practically forgot I was there. The threesome was his suggestion, not mine, but I was definitely up for it. After about an hour of being all but ignored no matter what I did, I thought frick this and went to go and read a book in the living room. We didn't last much longer as a couple, for a variety of reasons, but that was definitely one of them. I read 50 Shades and decided it was time to end my 6-year hiatus after my divorce. Met some douche who seemed to know what he was doing. It was fun having him boss me around and how he'd have me doing all sorts of naughty things in public or at work. After about a week we decided to meet. He wasn't my type but I was oh so frisky, so we got a room. Such promises he made, but in the end I just wasn't into him and I couldn't get off. I thanked him for trying and went home. A few days go by and I'm feeling crappy. My stomach was not right. I had awful abdominal pain and diarrhea. So I'm on the toilet and I go to wipe and I felt a foreign object graze my hand. Naturally I gave it a tug, pulled it out. My brain could not register what I was seeing. I was so confused. It was a freaking condom. It hit me like a brick. The dong sucker left a freaking condom in my freaking butt and I didn't crap it out for 4 freaking days. I remembered how at one point he was deep in my butt and he mentions that the condom slipped off. No problem. Just get a new one. No freaking clue he meant it was in my butt. I think I ruined someone's threesome fantasy. I was delivering pizza at the time and got an assignment to a nearby hotel. I took the delivery to the room and knocked on the door. I waited a moment as there was a quiet shuffle on the other side. Then a girl in lingerie answered the door. The look on her face was something like amazement. She quickly shut the door in my face and I heard something like "you better get it." So there I was standing confused outside a hotel room door waiting for the handoff. The guy comes to the door, opens it and stares at me for a moment. The girl is peeking under his arm. I'm like, "Here's your order. That'll be $23.42. They look at each other, say, "Would you like to come in and join us for pizza?" I'm like, "No, I have more deliveries in the car. Thanks for the offer." They say, "Oh okay." They give me money and I left. Got in the car and started driving to my next stop and it suddenly hit me that they were probably playing sexy games and the weird stare was that I wasn't the pizza delivery boy. Read it in the book that sex in the tub filled with milk and honey would enhance the sexual experience. Be me. 15-year unlimited allowance that somehow managed to talk my girlfriend into it. We pool our money together and buy 10 gallons of milk and in that squeeze bear shaped bottle of honey. We also steal some milk from cafeteria in those little cartons as well as some pockets of honey from 7/11. It's D-Day. Microwaving milk and cooking it as well while adding honey was like a 3-hour job. Whenever we poured one thing in, by the time we did another the first one would get cold and honey would settle on the bottom of the tub. We give up and pour everything in and start adding hot water. Well, bath is half full and it looks like it's time to reach sexual enlightenment. We get in and it stinks. Gets sticky and getting cold. I pretty much finish in 45 seconds then try to go down on her using honey as an aphrodisiac by rubbing it on. Finally she gets done or she says so because she is fed up, so we stop and try to clean up. Drain gets clogged. We can't get the honey off quick enough. My dad is pulling into the driveway and it's a total disaster. Few weeks later I get a urinary tract infection, but since I'm a broke immigrant I have no health insurance, so I suffer for few weeks. She develops yeast infection and a UT as well. Also, since I spent all my money on supplies, that means no lunches and visiting her for the rest of the month. Yeah, so it sucked, and from that day I'm not buying into that romantic writing crap, and smell of boiled milk gets me aroused a bit, yet my Johnson starts aching. This is the most terrible idea I've ever seen, but props to you for having the patience to actually prepare that bath. I've seen that thing in movies where girls show up to their boyfriend's place wearing nothing but an overcoat and basically flash them when he answers the door. I decided to do this to my fiance. I lived at home at the time and so couldn't actually leave the house naked. Besides, he lived pretty away from me, so I chose to wear clothes when I left and I managed to snake those off me in the car. I knocked on his door and he didn't answer. I waited for a few minutes and tried the door. It was open. I opened it a bit and he was in the shower. So now I'm just standing in his living room naked with an overcoat on which is becoming increasingly warm inside. I thought about what to do. He had seen me naked, so there was nothing exciting about just sprawling across his bed naked. That was a usual greeting. Nothing horrible happened, so I guess it may not apply here. But it completely ruined the fantasy for me. He probably would have been pleasantly surprised if you had joined him in the shower. Slept with an older woman. Amazing. Then her soon-to-be ex-husband came in and punched me a few times. It was my birthday. Maybe if you would have screamed "it's my birthday," he wouldn't have punched you. You never know. It could have worked. I had a huge thing for this guy and we had a whole 2 years of build-up. The first time I met him he gave me a ride home because everyone else was too drunk. On the way he said he wanted to charge me a kiss for the ride. I wanted to but also didn't want to be that easy about it. So we compromised with a kiss on the cheek. He of course turned his face into mine at the last second and it turned into a couple minutes of making out. He tried to take it farther but I got out of the car. Not 3 minutes later he adds me on Facebook. We exchange numbers and start texting a lot. I was super into him but I also was a virgin and not looking to not be one. We'd lose touch when we started seeing other people, then pick up right where we left off when we were both single again. We spent a lot of time sending each other very explicit messages about fricking each other pretty much anywhere and everywhere, even though we'd never done anything more than that one kiss. Once he came over to my house when my best friend and I were home alone having a sleepover. Got us both alone at separate points and kissed both of us. Then got us to kiss, which for me is not surprising. But it's not anything you'd expect my friend to do. It was her first kiss. That was all the further we took that though. Cue more explicit texting. We started getting really creative with it. We talked about some things that I'm really not freaking sure how I knew anything about. Finally I stopped having sex with people. I had been with 3 partners and was open to more. I was having a party at my house. I invited him. He agreed. I ran around the house screaming. I only had like 4 friends there yet and they all knew about him, that I was finally going to get to frick him. He showed up and there was no pretense. We just went straight to my bedroom. It was awkward as all heck. Neither of us knew a dang way to make any of our fantasies happen. He was super into anal, which had somehow never come up and I had never done. I didn't want to disappoint so I agreed. No lube, no condom. It hurt like heck. I finally had to end it. He went back in me without washing. I got an infection. He tried to ask me to suck him off after that. I was like heck no. I'm honestly not even sure if he finished. We stopped talking after that. That ending. Jeebus. Years ago tried to have shower sex with the hubby. Was way more cramped than expected. But we persisted. While in the middle of the act I went to put my leg up on the edge of the tub to try and get a more comfortable position. Unfortunately he thrusted a bit more forcefully than I expected. Due to the way we were oriented I was already leaning slightly forward and was standing on my non-dominant leg. When this happened I lost my balance just enough to have my foot slip out from under me. I fell straight down and banged my chin on the tub faucet. Ended up having to get stitches. Told the doctor I fell in the shower. Didn't mention the whole sex gone wrong part. He knew. I once fricked a chick and the only thing I was wearing was Velcro strap shoes. Nothing went wrong. I just wanted to share that. Rented a hotel room with a hot tub and mirrors on the ceiling for a drug and sex fueled weekend. Discovered a false ceiling and a camera attached to the mirror, which was a one-way mirror. After the festivities were over, realized that all the complimentary pee was filmed in a room that was suspiciously identical to the one we were in. Did not call cops because late 80s. What the frick? I'm late but oh well. One time I bought a black corset and connected black pantyhose to it, like a whole lingerie outfit with heels like the models at Victoria's Secret. I told my ex I had a special surprise for him. I changed in his bathroom and when I came out he just laughed at me. Never doing anything like that again. Your ex sounds like a real butthole. Don't let that stop you from doing something special for someone who'll actually appreciate the effort. Had a threesome with GF and cute girl from party. Had drank a lot of whiskey. Couldn't get hard. Most awkward night of my life. Why does God hate me? Arranged one with the GF and a mutual FWB. Our first threesome. Both are submissive, and I got too drunk to coordinate and it fell apart. Still super pee about it. Had a fantasy about having sex with this guy known to be super well hung. He wasn't even that cute, but girls were obsessed with him and I had never been with anybody super big, so I wanted to experience it. First few minutes are okay but kind of uncomfortable. Not too bad though, and I was getting annoyed with how slow he was. Told him to frick me hard. He said, "Are you sure?" I said yes. I spent the next 3 hours curled up in a ball crying because he had bruised my cervix. Turns out he wasn't anywhere near fully inside me when I told him to amp it up, and it was so painful and horrible that I refused to sleep with anybody over 8 inches. No thank you. Never. Again. I learned the hard way that I am just not built for that at all. Yeah, most women's cervix are only 6-7 inches deep. Went to have anal for the first time with an ex-girlfriend of mine and it was awful. She cried and it smelled horrible. Never wanted to try again. If you go to party at Poop's house, don't be surprised when poop is there. But yes, even after evicting the tenant, it can still be pretty stinky and dang painful for men. Hope your GF was alright. This is pretty tame but the result was horrible and sad. Always wanted to frick my GF with a double-ended dildo. We decided to buy ourselves one and it was our first ever sex toy purchase. On the site there were 2 that looked exactly the same but one was much longer and wider. You know where this is going. So of course my dumb butt sent her the link to the bigger one. Neither of us could fit it in. She's in the process of trying to discreetly dispose of it now. Donated to a Catholic thrift store. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.